SBCSS Digital Learning Services hosted a series of webinars based on ISTE's 5 competencies of digital citizenship. Each day of Digital Citizenship Week, we had a special guest presenter who was able to give us a deeper insight on each of those ISTE 5 competencies of digital citizenship. Then we ended off with a wonderful, exciting, and engaged presentation from Kozma from Microsoft Flip. Digital citizenship is 1 week, but digital citizenship is not to be confined to a week. So we have these resources available for you year-round and as you need them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Digital Citizenship Week. This is our last day of celebrating digital citizenship, but it is not the last day of us thinking about digital citizenship and also utilizing the principles that we have learned this week. I'm very excited for today's guest. We have Kozma from Microsoft Flip. Anne is going to be going over engaged digital citizenship with us. I'm super excited to learn from her. And first, we're going to learn a little bit about her. Anne loves to encourage others to push all the buttons as they use technology to empower learners of all ages to share their voice and respect the diverse voices of others. She has spent 20 plus years dedicated to transforming education as a first grade classroom teacher, as a K-8 innovation and instructional support TOSA in Southern California, and now as an educator innovation lead on Team Flip at Microsoft. Anne is passionate about helping others share, celebrate, and showcase authentic voices in the classroom and beyond. She is a member of the Apple Distinguished Educator Class of 2015. Connect with her on social at Kozma723. That's ANNKOZMA 723. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Kozma.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. And I just want to say thank you to the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, this entire department, for hosting Digital Citizenship Week 2023. It's an honor to be with you on Friday and wrap up an incredible week talking about the 5 competencies of digital citizenship. And I'm very excited to be sharing some ideas related to what engaged and engagement looks like as we support our students in our learning communities. So I also want to acknowledge it is Friday. Hello, Friday. The weekend is loading, and perhaps this webinar is what stands between you and the weekend. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune in live. If you're catching this on a replay in the future, thank you. I believe these conversations, the conversations that start today, do not have to end today. And this is evergreen content. So whenever you find this video, so thankful for the time together to even just begin to explore this. So as Jessica mentioned, my name is Kozma, and I work as an educator innovation lead on Team Flip at Microsoft. I did work in the Fullerton School District for almost 20 years, as mentioned, a first grade teacher, a K-8 innovation TOSA, supporting my fellow educators. And for the last 5 years, I've worked at Microsoft in a role that I describe as a teacher helping teachers. And I love conversations like this that are exploratory and give us brain zings, if you will, to begin to explore and think and learn and go beyond how we can transform teaching and learning in our classroom. So I'm going to dig into some slides. I know Jessica has shared that. You all should have access to that as it is set to be view only. But today we're digging into digital citizenship and engagement. And you'll notice a few pictures on the right side of the screen, and one of them I will circle back to in just a little bit. But as you think about your role as an educator and the work that you're doing in your classroom to support and empower your students, our roles have drastically changed over the last handful of years. Not only that, they've changed over the last decade as we have brought new technologies into our classroom. So I remember in my own time in the classroom thinking about what citizenship looks like, and then talking about this thing called digital citizenship. And I love this graphic from Common Sense Education that I popped on the screen about media balance and online privacy and digital footprints and communication and cyberbullying and news and media literacy. And all of these are critical components to what we call digital citizenship. And today we're going to dig into the two of those words combined. And I'll share from my own classroom as well as resources that I believe are powerful and rich and ready to use. And then share a few outside the box ideas that I was able to get with the help of Bing Chat. Everybody's talking about AI, and I wanted to talk about it today a little bit too, as a thought partner for me as an educator and as a lead learner in the classroom. So let's dig in. First, we're actually going to look back and go back to the future. This was my classroom in, gosh, over a decade ago. And if you notice a detail on the far back of the screen, that projection is from the day after Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, passed away. But it also shows my students holding up their iPod Touch device. And this is when I went one-to-one in my classroom with this very early version of a digital tool. And everything in my classroom began to change. But one thing I want to point out about that tool in my young scholars' hands, it did not have a camera. It did not have a microphone. And we used to plug in these tiny microphones to capture student voice. And the first transformative thing I was doing with my students was letting them share authentically from their own perspective about their lives as readers and responding to literature. And I was influenced by reading Rainbow when I was a kid and those book talks. And so that's how my students started using technology in the classroom. And a few years later, a new device came out called iPad. And I was one of the first teachers on my campus to get an iPad. And that also did not have a camera or a microphone. But if you notice one teeny tiny detail in this picture, among all the other awesome details, you'll notice on the back of that device, the circle indicating there was a camera on this device. And this was the moment when we brought video into the classroom in completely new ways that transformed what engagement looked like in my classroom. And if you look at those sweet little faces, you see all kinds of expressions on their countenance and their faces, and from, whoa, this is cool, to I'm focused and I'm dialed in. And one little boy on the far right in yellow going, what? That's me. I'm a creator. And my young scholars began to see themselves in new ways. And the way that I began to check for understanding or give my students the opportunity to show what they know, everything began to change. And I use three words all the time when I talk with educators about engagement: share, celebrate, and showcase. And so today we're going to dig into so many different ideas, but I wanted to show you our early beginnings and transformative moments because everything changed for me as an educator. And conversations not only about citizenship and what does it mean to be a member of a classroom community or a school community. Those conversations morphed into what does it mean to be a digital citizen? And what does it mean to utilize technology in the classroom, not only as educators, but for our students as well. So I want to talk and dig into these ideas about digital citizenship and engagement. And to get a frame of reference, this possibly is stuff you've already been talking about in your grade levels, on campus with your own staff members and colleagues this week, as the other presenters have shared the 5 competencies of digital citizenship with you. But these are the conversation supports and foundations that my staff and my team started having as we explored the ISTE standards for teachers and students. And so I want to just call out that website. If you are looking for resources, please definitely visit the ISTE standards for students, because these go into very meaningful and powerful big picture sort of frameworks for how we can be empowering our students. And we're going to dig into this standard 1.2 digital citizenship for our students, as we help them recognize the rights and responsibilities they have, the opportunities to live and work and exist in a virtual, interconnected digital world, right? But how they act and they model those safe, legal, ethical ways in the way that they're using technology. So please know I have either a note or a call out to a linkable resource in my slide deck. You're welcome to always click and explore as I'm talking through these. But when we think about digital footprints and online behavior and intellectual property and digital privacy, I want to dig a little bit deeper into these and help you get a frame of reference around these. I find that conversations I have with teachers in different parts of the world are at different stages of conversations around these ISTE standards. And that's okay. If this is something that's brand new to you today, this is a chance to begin to kind of broaden those perspectives and learn something new. So the idea of a digital footprint being this lasting piece that sticks with us and we can't sweep it away or change it. This is how our persona is attached to the digital materials that we're putting out in the world, the permanence of actions, etc. And of course, online behavior, and using those words like positive behavior, safe behavior, legal and ethical behavior, helping our students understand the interactions that they're having online. The intellectual property and how do you respect that property of others, or how do you ensure that you put content out in the world that is going to be respected and valued as well. So demonstrating that kind of understanding and the obligations and sharing of that property. And of course, digital privacy and security. This is all elements of what we talk about when we talk about digital citizenship. And you'll see today that this is like a broad spectrum, and the idea of scaling this for age and a focus area, it is a constantly influx thing, because education technology is constantly in flux as well. So I wanted to sort of ground the ideas in these big pictures, and as we move on, share just a few more big ideas that ISTE is talking about in these ISTE standards and the supports and resources that they're making available when we talk about digital citizenship. Balanced, informed, inclusive, engaged, alert. These are the areas that we focus on. And I love this idea of digital citizenship and well-being going beyond conversations about personal responsibility. And it's about being active citizens who see problems, or who see possibilities instead of the problems. And they see opportunities instead of risks as they curate a positive and effective digital footprint. And so this idea is, we're constantly growing in this. And one of the big takeaways from my time in the classroom and as a coach in the Fullerton School District was the idea of someday we're going to eliminate the word digital in front of digital citizenship, because this is just what we do as citizens who live in a hyper-connected digital world. So a few big ideas just kind of to share my mindset around here as I begin to share and go a little bit deeper into these resources. So let's couple what you know about digital citizenship. Wow, I have that Friday afternoon like speech issue where my brain and my words are not connecting well. So friends, let's couple what you know about digital citizenship with what we know about engagement. This is what this day is focused on. And I love and have loved over the years these resources that Sylvia Duckworth has made available. And for a long time, she was an educator in Canada, sharing just brilliant insights. And even though she's retired now, these sketch notes live on as these beautiful learning opportunities for all of us. But the idea of different levels of engagement and how students feel a sense of belonging or a sense of excitement or part of a learning community, the meaning and the value attachment to what they are doing. And look at the opposite spectrum of that is no commitment. And when students are not engaged or refuse to do the work, or there is disruption, I always talked about my teachers with the idea of giving students something to do that is fun and has meaning, or gives them a different opportunity to share, showcase, and celebrate their learning journey. And I experienced that myself, noting how very differently engaged my students were when they were creating rather than when they were consuming content. So if you've never seen this sketch note, it's brilliant because it makes us think a little bit different about commitment and attention transforming engagement, or lack of attention and lack of commitment to something. And I love this one too. It just talks about a continuum and going from teacher-centered to learner-centered to learner-driven, and the beautiful ways that we empower our students as creators, whether it's a passion-based learning or an interest-based learning, or the way they drive their own expression and learning journey and the ownership of what they are participating in the classroom and beyond. So I love that, just to point out the very top of that continuum with the flow, the purpose, the passion behind it, the enjoyment piece of it, the intrinsic motivation and the drive for learning, and the sense of responsibility for their self-learning as well. So these are just some ideas that are, again, taking us a little bit deeper into the big ideas of what digital citizenship is, as well. What does engagement mean? So in preparing for this, and every year around this time, we talk a lot about digital citizenship. But this is a conversation that's relevant and meaningful and needed and critical 365 days of the year. So earlier this year in May, Matthew J. Bowerman, in collaboration with Edutopia, put out this article called 3 Crucial Types of Engagement, speaking about relational engagement, intellectual engagement, emotional engagement. And I love this, and digging into these a little bit. Relational, it's exactly what you think it is. Building relationships in your learning community, empowering our students' minds, encouraging their sense of curiosity, the feeling of safety and security to take risks, and exploring those connections. And of course, that intellectual engagement is all about letting the learning flow. And this looks differently from our youngest scholars to our higher education, but this is the opportunity to stretch and grow those critical thinking skills and learning to flex your own tech muscles, right? We're all at various stages of utilizing or implementing technology in the classroom, and every stage is fine because we ourselves are lifelong learners, and we continue to grow on and model that for our communities as well. And that emotional engagement piece, I love this. Recognizing emotions as cues and signals and behaviors, but that equates to communication. So we need to listen to those cues as well, as that drives us to better understand our students, which can transform how we teach in the classroom. So I loved this example. And of course, in this article, Matthew Bowerman shares even more tidbits, and he talks about engagement in action. And what I wanted to do was actually begin to share resources through this. So again, you notice on screen the ability to click, and you will get to tons of resources. But let's dig into this relational piece really quickly. The idea of origin building with your students. Simplify it, relationships, right? Building blocks and relationships, and that understanding of each unique individual in your classroom. And this could be as simple as starting day one with a name pronunciation and hearing a student. How do they say their name? What does identity mean to them? Whether it's their culture or their interests or their passions, but seeing each individual student. So This is the point of the session where I start to click around. And so I'm actually going to click on this and share our first resource. This is a database of conversation starters, and we could use these to start building those relationships. In this article, Matthew talks about the origin wall. Share the story of who you are. This can be scaffolded for any age, any curricular area, content area, etc. So across the spectrum, K-12, even beyond, working with higher education or adult learners, let them tell their story. Let's find out who our students are. So I'm going to click into this, and you'll notice it's taking us into a database of Flip topics. I work for Flip. I love sharing Flip. I loved it as a coach in Fullerton. I love it as a teacher helping teachers now. But I want to just do a quick scroll. Things like get to know you, start the conversation. What's in your suitcase? What happens when you fail? Friday, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Any of these. What's your favorite app? What's your one word? All about me, right? So I'm going to dig into this topic and just say all about me. And this is an opportunity for students to begin to share or talk about who they are, of course, while leveling up their tech skills, possibly creating a flip for the first time. Another one that I want to share is this what's in your suitcase. And this is a brilliant idea out of Australia from an educator, Bronwyn Joyce, who talks about if you had to escape your home tomorrow. And there are students and people all around the world in various stages of life. And what happens if they have to flee in less than 24 hours? Or what happens if you have the luxury of knowing, okay, tomorrow you have time and you can pack your bag. What would you bring with you? But those things speak to what we hold dear, what we value as individuals as well. And it's a way we can build relationships and start to get to know our peers and our classmates. So the idea of relational engagement, I love this. And then digging into that intellectual engagement. I started by talking about those ISTE standards, and you know it's all about knowledge construction and creative communication and digital citizenship and the construction of ideas. And so digging into this article again, Matthew Bowerman shares that what about if you pick an aspect of your curriculum and you actually translate it into a visual medium? So in the article, he talks about artificial intelligence and whether you're digging in and exploring AI or whether you're holding off on it, that's okay. But let's zero in on the idea of a visual medium, of a technology project, if you will, of anything our students can create as they share themselves and their learning. So I want to dig into these ideas that Adobe for Education are sharing, and they have a series of incredible featured collections inside of Flip, seeking perspectives, constructing ideas, creative expression, and more. So let's launch that and dig in a little bit. You'll notice some of these topics, and I mentioned more. I'm actually going to click into that because you see digital literacy brought up as a standard here as well. But let's talk about constructing ideas for a moment. And maybe this one is all about designing to create a better tomorrow. And I love this. This is actually an example from higher education that could be modified for high school or even a junior high school community. Talking about design or talking about elements that are relevant and how do those apply to a skill or a career that you're taking on? What if it's an elementary school focus and you're actually trying to design a new project to help somebody with a disability? All of these can be thought about as ways to give students the opportunity to think beyond themselves and to begin to create in new ways. So another one I want to share is this multimedia poetry. And I love this because this, again, could be something used at the beginning of school. Who am I as an individual? Maybe I'm talking about elements of my life, like the music I love, or the books that I love, or the things that I'm passionate about outside of classroom. But this literally just gives some examples and ideas of how folks can use digital tools in those engaging pieces, but also circling back to that intellectual engagement piece and building the relational engagement piece as well. And that last area he talked about was emotional engagement. And this is something I also feel so passionate about, as so many of us are talking about mindfulness. Mindfulness, mental health, well-being, social emotional learning. Those have sort of become those edulingo bingo buzzwords we're all talking about, but they're so crucial to our conversations as educators. So think about this. In your classroom and on your campus, you probably have a set of behavior expectations. Sometimes we call them rules. Sometimes we call them positive behavior expectations. Whatever it is, it's that good citizenship piece. What does it mean to be a good citizen? What does it mean to follow the rules? But what about the emotional expectation and letting students feel and see and share authentically? So I love the idea of this. It's not just compliance to something, but it's actually creating spaces that benefit us all for our own well-being. So this type of engagement is actually helping us as educators meet emotional needs, help foster those moments of learning discovery, and realize all of us are up and down at any given point during the day. So this is an incredible resource called Microsoft Reflect. And this reflection is actually a well-being app that's designed to help foster connection and expression and learning by promoting self-awareness and empathy and emotional growth. So this is another resource for everybody that literally is a way that you could use what we call as, a check-in, an emotional check-in, or talking about how somebody is feeling during the day, or creating spaces to gain insight into the learners. And that also helps determine how can we shift a lesson? How can we pivot what we are teaching to meet those needs and tailor instruction to our students' interests or a very specific need? So all of these are linked in this resource, and all of these actually are available inside of Flip as well if you're using Flip in your community. But I want to dig in a little bit deeper and share some more transformative ideas. And this is an AI component where I'm using Bing Chat as my own thought partner. So this is not necessarily something, you don't have to present this or project this in your classroom if you don't want to. This is something that you could do as a lifelong learner in your own time or your own exploration. So I want to share that as a caveat, because what I'm about to share in the next few slides simply was me using generative AI as a thought partner for myself. So I went to Bing Chat and I asked the question, what do you think students in K-12 should know about digital citizenship? This is a great question to ask. It's also a great starting point to begin to explore an AI chat tool like Bing Chat if you've never done it before. So I love this. It says, hey, I'm searching for these resources, and then it begins to talk about things like skills related to online safety, cyberbullying prevention, media literacy, digital wellness. Well, those are also buzzwords I can pull out of here and be like, oh, maybe I need to dig into this. Maybe I need to learn a little bit more about this. Maybe it's a brand new concept to me. Maybe I should be aware of it. Something that's sparking my own learning as a lifelong learner and somebody modeling these things in the classroom. So whether it is that online safety piece, I love that there are ideas about understanding potential risk consequences. What does it mean to share appropriate, inappropriate content? Cyberbullying prevention. We've all talked about this as educators for years and years. How do we prevent bully-free communities? How do we promote kindness and respect and a sense of belonging on our campus or in our classroom? Media literacy, digital wellness. These are all things that come up with some great resources and clickable links. So what AI can do is extend thought process and a pattern and begin to build and grow in ideas. So I, in my search query, said, considering the information above, what are top 10 innovative ideas to engage students as digital citizens? And I love this again as something to spark my own ideas, things I could take into the classroom. So, hey, That's a great question, Bing Chat says. Engaging students as digital citizens is an important goal for educators in the 21st century. It will continue to be an important goal for educators as we continue on. Then you begin to see ideas like student-created tutorials, role-playing challenges, creating brochures or ad. And at this point, what I am thinking is app-smashing possibilities. Technology is an and, not an or. There are so many brilliant, powerful tools. Canva, Adobe, Microsoft tools, Google tools, whatever it is you are using, Microsoft Flip, right? All of these provide opportunities for our students to share, showcase, and celebrate. Those are those 3 words I love sharing. So I want to call out specifically a role-playing challenge. Former first grade teacher, I use this all the time. Role play to teach positive behavior expectations with my first grade students, using a piece of literature or using an exemplar from our PBIS school-wide implementation that we were helping our students begin to understand, acting out. But also remember, we had video capability in our classroom. So even my first grade students were creating little tutorials and little videos, right? I love that. Jessica just put in the chat, this meets UDL as well. So all of that, multiple means of action and expression, and designing universally for everybody, right? Absolutely. Additionally, things like creating brochures or ads and using those to place as PSAs all over campus. Or maybe it is a design challenge that your ASB or student government is doing, and they're leading the charge, because that is something that we know in high school, in junior high, and those older grade levels, we want to create a sense of excitement and buy-in. So find the student leaders on campus that can lead these examples. I'm going to speed up a little bit because there's so many ideas. So digital literacy tracking projects, I love this. This could be for maths in high school, where they're actually analyzing data and identifying areas of improvement while they track and monitor their own time spent online, various social tools or resources that they spend time doing. So friends, I kept this idea going with Bing Chat, and I said, extend this thinking with ideas for how teachers can use all of this, but focus on the idea of using social media or video content for good to teach digital citizenship within this context. And again, Bing Chat continues to create a class blog or podcast, participate in a global project, create a social media campaign, create a video documentary. And again, I'm wanting to share big ideas that literally can work in kinder and can work in 12th grade at the same time. All of this can be scaffolded. And the idea is, right, you know your students, you know your community, we tweak accordingly, right? So those are different types of things. I love the idea. I'm just going to leave this one. The digital portfolio, any of these tools, reflections, feedback, documenting, growth, and learning. This is change over time. Perhaps somebody's mindset around what it means to be a digital citizen at the beginning of the year is very different than what it is at the end of the year after they have created and used all these technology tools all year long. So as we begin to start thinking about wrapping up our time, I want to share a few ready-to-use resources, and of course, talk about how Flip can help. So these were extended, these 15 outside of the box ideas. You can go back in the slide deck and dig in if you want to. But what I want to do is talk very quickly about how Flip can help. And if you see on screen a logo that might be familiar to you and a logo that might not be familiar to you. If you're thinking, Flip, what's that? Perhaps you have heard of Flipgrid or even used Flipgrid back in the day. So we rebranded to the name Flip if you think about the power of a flipped video or flipped lesson. The idea of flip is a much more universally and globally understandable word to talk about the power of video and how it can be used to help students express themselves. So Flipgrid was a made-up word based on a really cool animation back in the day from a grid of videos that would flip off the screen. But if you know Flipgrid, you know flip. And I want to very quickly buzz through a few big ideas of how to get started and then share a few resources before we wrap up. I love sharing flip. And when I think about digital citizenship and providing opportunities for our students to create as responsible creators of content and sharing knowledge, I also think about that fun and engagement piece. And that's our mission, to make learning fun and empowering for everybody. And if you are brand new to Flip, please know it is 100% free. And we are on a mission to make learning fun, but it's also a way that you can create a safe online group for your students to express their ideas asynchronously in short videos, in text and audio messages as well. So you get started in 3 quick, simple steps: create a group, post a topic, and watch that magic happen. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go through these very quickly. If you're looking for additional resources, we have other opportunities to share Flip. Please let me know how I can help. But I mentioned create a group. This is whatever group of students you want to engage. Think of your classroom, your after-school STEM or robotics club, your staff, your PLC team. You create that group and determine how you want members to join. And you always remain in control of who has access. Then you create topics. These are those individual discussion prompts, the activities, the assignments, if you will. So you post those topics and your community responds with their videos. And that's, of course, where the magic happens. You launch that discussion and student creation and engagement piece. And of course, if you want them to, they can watch each other's, comment on each other's, and even reply to their peers. And we share this all the time. My shirt even says it: think it, flip it. But we believe this wholeheartedly. If you can think it, you can flip it. Whether that's that day 1 introduction, or maybe it's a study group, or maybe it's a family engagement event, or maybe it's a virtual career day, or maybe it's any kind of celebration and showcase of learning. So this is a ton of text on screen, but it's not just that video piece. Because another part of Flip you might not be familiar with is what we call the Discovery Library. And this is a database of almost 50,000 ready-to-use resources from incredible educators sharing their best topic templates, as well as partners who are making their content available to you for free. And I want to dig in and call out 3 of our partners: I Can Help, the Pacer Center, and the News Literacy Project. And these are directly related to what you're doing, supporting your students as they're learning about digital citizenship and the way you're using technology to engage your learners. And of course, we also have a curated featured collection all about digital citizenship. So this is part of my job, to make resources easy and accessible for folks. And so all of these are ready for you to use. And I actually am going to take us there right now and share how simple it is to find and access these resources. Then I want to share a final thought before we go. So as we launch into the Flip Discovery Library, you'll notice a few things. I am in Discovery, and I have actually used that shortcut to get into the partner page. But I'm going to click back 1 step and show you Discovery from the beginning. This can be found inside your free Flip account simply by clicking on your profile and going to Discovery in the top right corner of the page. And you'll notice some featured content across the top. There's I Can Help. It's a featured partner this month. Some popular topics, a topic of the day. All of them this month are all related to digital citizenship. You also can browse by subject, and you'll notice digital citizenship is one of the featured topics you can shortcut to. You have trending topics. Here is all of that partner content, which I'll share in just a minute. We have incredible, inspiring creators, and we have featured collections as well. And I'm going to point out that digital citizenship featured collection right there. I will click a few buttons, but let me scroll right back to the partners and click View All, because I mentioned them just a moment ago. And what I want to do is click on that I Can Help partner page and show you how their resources are available for you. This is thought-provoking, powerfully relevant curriculum. It's especially suited for middle school and high school students to start the conversation about digital citizenship, digital wellness, and all kinds of things. But I want to use this featured collection all about digital for good. And you'll see things about compliments and Black Lives Matter and first impressions online and we can help. And so perhaps I just click into this one about video etiquette. And what you see is an example of a ready-to-use topic. The YouTube resource that's embedded for folks to watch, some guiding schema or background knowledge for folks to know, and then guiding questions that your students will respond to. And if you want to use these topics, all you have to do is click that pink button that says Add Topic. You can add it to any of your flip groups or even create a brand new one to use immediately with your student. On this side, you have a little bit of information from the creator. Again, the creator being I Can Help. But this is a great way to think about how online experiences impact real life experiences and the navigation of things like stress and anxiety and depression, suicide, even in kids. These are critical conversations we need to be aware of. And these are phenomenal resources from a company that is an expert in this area. So I love sharing I Can Help. And if we just do a quick scroll, things like what's the most used emoji or your personal brand, or what happens if you Google yourself? How might you respond in a group chat? Uncomfortable, inappropriate content, race and bias. Things about how do you respond to negative posts? These are incredible content, rich, thought-provoking topics you can use to support these conversations in your community. So check out I Can Help. It is linked in that slide deck. Another one that I want to point out as I scroll down is the Pacer Center. And this is all about creating a world without bullying. And the Pacer Center's National Bullying Prevention Center is all about positive social change, preventing childhood bullying so that youth feel safe and supported. And perhaps these might be appropriate for elementary school, but I do want to note that there are middle and high school relevant topics too in these featured collections, different age appropriate, that's specifically noted. So if I come in here and you're coming in and seeing some examples, how does bullying impact feelings? Creating kindness poems, how bullying feels. And this is just a scroll of different types of things, but this is an example for elementary school. Again, there's a video response, and then the prompt simply says, share some words about how you think it feels to be bullied. And these are the types of entrance into a conversation or conversation starters in your classroom, or even with your peer group of fellow educators. How do we bring this up with our students? How do we foster this? And maybe it's a proactive approach in teaching those positive behavior expectations with regards to the interpersonal interaction, or how we use technology to share messages for good and use that tech for good. So the National Bullying Prevention Center at Pacer is just another incredible resource. And I'm going to toggle back again and go into the News Literacy Project, just as that third example of partner content. And as I scroll, you see just brilliant companies that are making their content available for you. So Discovery is one of my favorite places to share. The News Literacy Project, again, tons and tons and tons of research, whether it's understanding real or fake news. The last thing, because I know we're coming close on time, I mentioned that featured collection, and that digital citizenship one is just full of other resources from partners, from educators. And again, let's say you want to use this. How are you a digital citizen? You can take that topic, add it to your group, and use it immediately. So friends, before I go, I want to leave you with one final thought. And, excuse me. I'm going to go back into my project. I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap our time, and it's all about digital citizenship as being a whole lot more than online etiquette. And Michelle Ciccone in August of 2020 in this Education Week article says, true digital citizenship must be developmentally scaffolded and dynamic because the environment online is ever changing. It also will necessitate an interdisciplinary approach as we help students participate in an information-abundant, data-rich, historically situated, creative, and emotionally challenging digital ecosystem. It isn't good enough to be simply well-intentioned within systems built on injustice and inequity. The same is true for our participation online. We can develop a digital citizenship education that helps us face the limitations of good intention and ask students to co-create a more ethical and just digital world. And I love, love, love that you have shown up for this conversation about digital citizenship and engagement. I know I shared a ton of information. It is all linked in the slide deck if you revisit it again. Of course, you can find me anywhere folks online are talking about Microsoft Flip. My name is Ann. Find me at Ann Kozma 723 on all social. But I just want to say thank you. And again, on behalf of the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, thank you for inviting me to be part of this conversation. But educators out there, thank you, thank you, thank you for every single thing you're doing to empower your community and support and empower every voice. So Jessica, I'll toss it back to you. I think that's right on the dot at 4:30.
I am impressed. It sure is. Yeah, I was like, wow, she's a pro. She got her timing. Last slide, everything fell into place. Absolutely an honor to have you here with us, and we are truly appreciative. And you really brought it home today, incorporating AI, giving us so many resources and ways to think about engagement, frameworks, articles, research, as well as resources. And so we really thank you. And I can't wait to put some of this into action. You already have me thinking of ideas for next year. I know it's not just a yearly thing. It's a daily thing, but I'm already thinking like, all right, let's partner next year. Let's make this bigger, better, and more powerful. And so we appreciate all of you who have attended and have empowered yourselves. And hopefully you will take this back to your site, your students, and continue this conversation. Thank you so much for all your attendance at Digital Citizenship Week. Feel free to reach out, Jessica Dabouche at SBCSS.net. And we will let you guys enjoy your wonderful weekends. And thank you again. Happy Digital Citizenship Week. Bye, everyone.